"You're too cold to manage a team," my coworker said loudly during a staff meeting. I smiled, hit play on my presentation. Slide 1 was her email calling a client a worm with a wallet. The room froze. She tried to close the laptop, but my manager said, "Keep going." When I hit slide 8, she threw up in the trash can. I'm not the kind of person people remember right away. I don't say that with sadness or bitterness. It's just how I've always been. I'm the quiet one, the one who says sure and okay more than anything else. I keep to myself. I don't go out for drinks after work. I don't gossip in the break room. I do my job. I do it well. That's always been enough for me. For most of my life, people have mistaken my quietness for weakness. At work, especially. I've been at this company for 6 years now. I started out on the support side, moved up slowly, always took the hard projects no one else wanted. I didn't complain. I met my deadlines. I took on extra work when other people bailed. I became the person people went to when things got bad, and they needed it fixed quietly. About a year ago, my manager left to join another company. That left a vacancy for team lead. I applied for it. So did Leah. Leah is the opposite of me. Outgoing, charming, always laughing too loud. She's the type who memorizes birthdays, brings cupcakes into the office, and makes sure the boss hears her compliments. She talks fast, moves fast, and always has some excuse for why her projects are late or why it's someone else's fault. But she gets away with it. People like her. At least, on the surface. When I applied for the lead position, I didn't tell anyone. I just filled out the form, submitted my application, and went back to work. I thought we'd all find out together when the decision was made. But Leah found out I applied. She started talking to people. Casually at first. "Oh, I heard a few people applied. I mean, it should be someone warm, right? Someone who knows how to bring people together, not just someone who hits deadlines." That kind of thing. Then she got more direct. One day, a junior developer came to me and said, "Hey, I don't mean to get in the middle of anything, but Leah's been telling people you're not leadership material, that you're too cold, that people don't trust you." Another coworker told me she made a joke at lunch about how putting me in charge would be like giving a thermostat a team. Apparently, everyone laughed. I didn't say anything. I just nodded and thanked them for telling me. Then I went back to my desk and kept working. But something shifted in me that week. I started paying attention. I started saving things. I'm not IT, but I know enough about our systems. I started forwarding certain emails to a private folder. Screenshots, Slack messages, little comments she made when she thought nobody would care. She was reckless. She sent rude comments about clients over company email. She insulted coworkers in DMs. She made fun of a client's disability in a Slack thread with a laughing emoji. It wasn't hard to find these things. They were everywhere once I started looking. A month after that, I got the team lead job. Leah congratulated me in the meeting. She smiled, clapped, and said, "You'll be amazing." But something in her eyes shifted. Over the next few weeks, she kept finding ways to undermine me. She'd interrupt me in meetings. She gave confusing instructions to team members behind my back. She told one of the junior devs that I was drowning in the deep end and just pretending to swim. That one hurt. Then came the quarterly staff meeting. It was my first time leading one. I'd worked hard on a client engagement plan that I was excited to present. I'd built out a clean slide deck. I had talking points. I had examples. I was proud of what I'd done. Everyone sat down in the meeting room. My manager was there. So was Leah. Right as I stood up and opened my laptop, Leah said loudly, "Are we really putting her in charge of client engagement? She's too cold to manage people." A few people laughed awkwardly. Someone said, "Yikes." I think one person gasped a little. I looked at her. I didn't smile. I just said, "Let's begin," and hit play on the presentation. Slide 1 was an email. From Leah. Subject line, "Ugh, not him again." It was a short message. "Worm with a wallet. Just tell him whatever he wants to hear, so he shuts up." You could feel the shift in the room. People looked up from their coffee. One guy leaned back in his chair and looked at Leah. She blinked. "What is this?" she said. She stood up and reached toward the laptop. My manager put his hand out, not touching her, just stopping her movement, and said, "No. Let her continue." So I did. Slide 2, a Slack conversation where Leah called another coworker dumber than a bag of spoons. Slide 3, an email chain showing how she blamed a missed deadline on a junior dev who had actually finished their part 3 days early. I had the timestamps. Slide 4, a Zoom clip from a client call where she didn't know she was being recorded. She said, "This guy is a nightmare. I don't care what he wants. I'm not fixing anything for that idiot." I kept going. Calm. Steady. Just reading the slides and moving through the deck. Each one showed her words, her tone, her disrespect. None of it was altered. All of it was real. By slide 8, which showed her mocking a client with a disability, literally making fun of his writing style because he had a known neurological condition, she stood up suddenly, walked fast toward the door, and vomited in the trash can by the exit. Nobody moved. I stood there with the clicker in my hand. My manager said, "Let's pause here." HR followed Leah out of the room. The rest of us sat in silence. After a few minutes, the meeting ended. That was 4 days ago. Leah hasn't returned to work. Word is, she's been placed on leave pending a formal review. I've been asked to provide all the documentation, which I already had organized and backed up. Since then, I've gotten 3 texts from coworkers I barely talk to. One said, "You were right to do it." Another just said, "Damn." The last one said, "You're cold as hell. I'm glad you're in charge." I haven't told anyone how much this cost me, how long I waited, how many times I almost deleted that folder, how I second-guessed myself every time she smiled at me like she wasn't slowly stabbing me in the back. I don't feel powerful or proud, just relieved. She thought I was quiet because I was weak, but I was quiet because I was watching. The day after the meeting, I came into work early. I didn't sleep much that night. I kept going over the slides in my head, wondering if I'd gone too far, wondering if I'd done something wrong. I hadn't altered anything. I hadn't lied. But the part of me that was trained to stay quiet for years kept whispering that I should have just let it go. When I got to my desk, my access card didn't work right away. For a second, I froze. I thought maybe I was in trouble too. Maybe HR saw the presentation as retaliation. Or maybe Leah spun some kind of story before leaving. But after a long pause, the door clicked open. Inside, everything felt strange. People looked at me differently. Not mean or angry, just differently. Some avoided eye contact. A few smiled, small and awkward. One person, someone I've worked with for 3 years, didn't say anything at all but left a coffee on my desk without a word. Later that morning, I got called into HR. They asked me to walk them through how I gathered everything. I told them the truth. It was all internal messages and emails. I had access to it through standard permissions. Nothing was hacked. Nothing illegal. They asked why I did it. I said I didn't know how else to protect myself. That I had tried to stay professional. That I had waited and waited, and she kept escalating. That being silent didn't stop it. It only encouraged her. They didn't say much. Just nodded and told me they'd be in touch again soon. Leah stayed gone. But her absence stirred things up. Some people in the office didn't like what I did. I heard from one of the interns that a few of the marketing folks were saying I set her up. That I humiliated her on purpose. Someone apparently said I was dangerous, that I weaponized professionalism. That word stuck with me, weaponized. All I did was show the truth. But the truth made people uncomfortable. That week was the strangest week of my career. I was technically promoted again, project lead over 2 new client initiatives, but socially, I became someone people tiptoed around. Like I'd grown claws. Then on Thursday, I got an anonymous note in my inbox. No sender. It said, "You're not a leader. You're just a rat with receipts. Don't get too comfortable." I read it 3 times before I closed the tab. The next day, someone logged into our internal Slack with Leah's credentials. Just one message. It was in a public thread for project updates. It said, "This place rewards snakes. Enjoy the throne, Ice Queen." She was already locked out of her accounts, so IT knew it had to be someone else who logged in with her info. That's when they found out someone had given her VPN access from inside the office. Someone had re-enabled her credentials from an admin account. It wasn't just Leah anymore. Someone was helping her. IT traced it back to a guy in QA, Jonas. He'd always had a weird crush on Leah. He brought her lunch once a week, carried her monitor when she moved desks, made excuses for her when she forgot meetings. Apparently, he thought helping her would get him in her good graces. He got fired the same day. That made things worse. People started splitting into sides. A few folks thought Jonas got what he deserved. Others said I was turning the office into a surveillance state. I caught someone whispering in the kitchen as I walked in. They shut up fast and left. I started eating lunch at my desk again. People kept their distance. My work kept piling up, but nobody questioned my output. If anything, I was being given more than I could handle, like they wanted to bury me in it. One day, I was in a one-on-one with my manager. He was the only person who'd been truly neutral through the whole thing. He looked at me and said, "You know, it's strange. Everyone hated how toxic it got, but now that it's quieter, they miss the noise." I just nodded. He added, "You're doing great work, but keep your eyes open." That was all he said, but it stuck. I started to realize the mess wasn't over. Leah was gone, but her damage was still moving under the surface. And not everyone wanted it cleaned up. A week after Jonas got fired, the office returned to this weird, fake calm. On the surface, everything was quiet. Nobody said Leah's name out loud anymore. Meetings started on time, no more side comments or interruptions. But underneath, something felt off. I noticed people whispering more. Heads leaned close behind cubicle walls. Slack activity slowed down, not just for me but across the board. It was like everyone was waiting for something to happen, or trying not to be noticed. Then something strange happened. I got an email, not from a company address, just a personal Gmail. The subject line was blank. The message just said, "Thought you'd like to know, Leah's meeting with someone from your client list. Check her LinkedIn." I hesitated, but I checked. She'd updated her LinkedIn the night before. Freelance client strategy consultant, specializing in tech startups. And right below it, a list of past and ongoing clients. One of them was a small app company we'd been negotiating with for months. They hadn't signed with us yet. I was in the middle of that deal. I felt sick. Not just because she was working again, but because she was circling our clients, poaching them, and nobody had stopped her. I brought it up to legal. They said she hadn't signed a non-compete, just a standard confidentiality agreement. And unless I had evidence she used inside info to contact them, there wasn't much we could do. But it wasn't just about that one client. Over the next few days, 2 more companies we'd been courting suddenly ghosted us. Both had meetings scheduled. Both pulled out last minute. No reason given. That's when I knew. She wasn't just out for a new job. She was trying to hurt me, and she had help. I started checking social media more carefully. LinkedIn, Instagram, even Twitter. I found a small trail, likes, mutual connections, tiny interactions between her and 2 other people from my office. One from HR. One from the content team. People who were still employed. People who had access to files. Contacts. Schedules. I didn't want to believe it, but I'd been naive once already.
So I tested something.
I created a fake internal document. A harmless decoy, just a project summary for a made-up pitch. I named the client something generic. I mentioned a fake upcoming meeting with them. I left the document in a shared folder that only 4 people could access. 1 week later, the fake company got a cold outreach from a freelance strategist offering better rates and inside advice on how to get the most out of our services. It was Leah. She was using moles inside the company to sabotage us. I reported it immediately. Gave them everything: the doc, the access log, the client response. That's when it blew up again. The HR person was suspended. The content team's staffer quit the next day without saying anything.
Packed up and left.
2 people gone, just like that. But I was the one they stared at. People didn't care that I was right. They cared that I'd exposed more coworkers, that I was still quietly collecting receipts, that I was dangerous. I overheard someone say, "She doesn't work with us. She works above us." Another person said, "She'll report you if you breathe wrong." Even though I had never reported anyone who didn't deserve it. Even though Leah was the one violating trust, not me. I started sitting alone in meetings. People gave short answers when I spoke. The same coworkers who used to ask for help now sent passive-aggressive messages, or none at all. The office became cold. Not because of me, but because the mask had slipped and nobody wanted to look at what was underneath. After the second mole quit and the HR person got suspended, things didn't calm down. The opposite happened. It was like someone had kicked a hornet's nest. Suddenly, everyone was paranoid. Not just about me, but about each other. People who had nothing to do with Leah started checking their messages twice, asking to have conversations off Slack, deleting old threads. Leadership announced a company-wide information integrity audit, which was a nice way of saying, "We're combing through everything to see who's leaking." They brought in a third-party firm. It got real, fast. People started being called into HR one by one. A few quietly took sick days and didn't come back. One guy from sales was fired without warning. I watched him pack up his desk in silence while everyone else pretended to work. Through all of it, I kept my head down. I didn't celebrate. I didn't smirk. I just did my job. But I documented everything. I kept a folder of notes. Meetings. Changes. Who said what and when. Then one day, I got a call from the CEO's office. He asked me to join a private meeting, just him, my manager, and the legal team. That's when I learned the full story. Leah wasn't just freelancing. She'd formed an LLC under someone else's name. She had a partner, a guy she used to date who worked in a small consulting firm. Through him, she'd been offering insider discounts and strategy to clients we were actively negotiating with. Using knowledge only someone inside our walls could provide. She'd stolen 2 small accounts already. Another 3 had been approached. What she was doing wasn't just unethical. It was illegal. Client tampering. Breach of confidentiality. Corporate sabotage. The company filed a civil suit. Her former partner flipped on her almost immediately. Emails, messages, payment records, it all came out. The LLC was tied back to her. She tried to deny it, then tried to settle quietly. But the company refused. They wanted to make an example. I was listed as the primary internal witness. Every piece of documentation I'd collected, carefully, legally, with timestamps and logs, was handed over. It went to court. Her face when I saw her across the room at the hearing was hollow, like she'd aged 10 years in one.
She didn't smile this time. She didn't speak to me.
She lost. Not just the case, she lost everything. She was fined heavily. The judge ruled she owed damages to both the company and the affected clients. Her name is blacklisted across most firms in the industry now. Her LinkedIn disappeared a few weeks later. Someone sent me a screenshot of her freelancing profile. It had a new name, new face, but the same writing style. She was trying to start over. But in this field, reputation sticks. As for me, it took a long time to feel comfortable again. People started coming around slowly. The ones who'd stayed quiet started opening up again. A few apologized. A couple left the company altogether, saying the culture had shifted too far. My manager pulled me aside one day and said, "You were right about all of it, but not everyone likes when the quiet one wins." He was right. I got a bonus that year. A private thank you from the CEO. A lot of praise behind closed doors. But socially, I was never the same there. I left 6 months later. Took a job at a different firm. Higher position. Better pay. Clean slate. These days, I work with a team that respects boundaries. They think I'm calm.
Smart. Steady.
None of them have ever called me cold. But if they do, I still have the folder. And I'm not afraid to use it.